Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Someone asked if I do consultations, and I told them to email me. We can chat more about that. That is the vision, but it has to be based on a certain, I guess, investor report or area or specific complex. I don't just want to be yapping for 30 minutes and to take your money and we're not having any actual direction. So it would be more beneficial, I think, for me and the person if they reached out and they would say, I'm looking at these two complexes in this municipality, so that when we do meet, we're looking at those two property reports, and then we're looking at the area. And then I also know, is it based on rental or is it based on they want to live in it? Yeah, and understand that I don't just want to take people's money and then they don't get anything out of it. That would come at, I think, probably like 500 an hour, and then you can together the hour as you want. Okay, if you want 15 minutes, you'll pay a quarter. If you want half an hour, you'll pay half. If you want the full hour, you'll pay the full. And if there's multiple of you, that's also fine. Then you can together the same hour, and then you guys are sitting on the same call with me. I won't charge more for that. Yeah, you understand what I mean? But yeah, that is the vision behind these reports, I guess. But now the niggas and J taste for free, so that you guys can get a sense of what you can expect and the kind of questions that you can ask should you want like a one-on-one. All right, so for the first time, say at Durban, at Durban, right? We're gonna look at the property there. So sectional titles, the volumes are actually down for 2025, so you're getting about 2,000, and then they're averaging about 800,000, and they're steady increasing. And then the full title properties, the volumes are also increasing, but a bit low for 2024, 2023, or 2025, and those are also increasing in price to about a million and a half. Yeah. And then investment properties, that's also on the up and up, about 30%, 35%. And you can see where that is concentrated. Obviously, the coastal areas more so. The coastal areas are more, popular. There's Umhlanga. And then the rental payment index, what we're seeing here basically is that, again, certain areas are more popular than others. Ilalusha, the coastal areas, the nice areas. Ilalusha, I don't know Natal very well. Is it Kingo Beach? I don't know Natal well. I've only been to South Beach. All right, and then this is the good standing ratio. It's basically telling us that 55% of people paid on time. That's very low compared to Cape Town, which we've looked at a lot, and national. So only 55% paid on time, 11 or 12% did not pay at all, 3.5% paid within the grace period, which is 7 days, and then PP of 18% is partial payment, and then paid late, it's 11.25%. So this, relative to national, relative to Cape Town, is not good, and then relative to Joburg is also not good. And then this is the residential yield. So the residential is coming down, the trend is coming down, so it's about 7%, which isn't very good, and that is the effective. And then this is the original yield, which is also coming down. That's about 9%, 8.5, 9, yeah, 9.5, yeah. What this is basically saying is that your rental yield is supposed to be about 10%, but because a lot of people aren't paying, only 55% of people are paying on time, the effective yield is actually closer to 7%, and that isn't very good. And that is the freehold property. This is for sectional titles, and then for freehold it's even lower ish. And then the rental price trends, what you're basically looking at for a sectional title, the rental price ranges between 2k and 10k. That's quite a big range. And then what you've got is an average of about 7k, which is reasonable. And then for freehold, you've got an average of about 8, but again, the range is quite big, between 4k to about 13k. And then the rental by bedroom, that's what we're seeing here. Let's look at 2 beds. So 2-bed ranges in 2025 between 4K and 10.5K, whereas a 3-bed ranges in 2025 from 6.2 to 15K. Okay, that's interesting. What you want to do is you want to see how it's increasing over the years. You also want to see which one makes more sense when you combine this amount with your model, which I'm also sending out on email to people who are interested for a price. So just reach out to me if you're interested in that. So this you would pair up together with the model to basically see or input. If I take a 3-bedroom for $1 million and I'm expecting a rental of 6.2, the rental yield for the what's her name, a sectional title is about 7%. I'm holding it for 15 years. My bond is this, etc., etc. Those are the inputs, and then you see, is this cash flow positive or not, and when do I break even? Those type of things. So they're supposed to work hand in hand. It's not you get one or the other. And then this is the rental price distribution. So obviously sectional titles less than 3 bed are the ones that are lower income, and then when you go higher, you've got like bigger houses for more than 3 beds. Those are the ones that you're getting there in freehold. Sectional titles is very thin. It's very thin. So you've got here 2 thou about to 8 thou, and then more than that, you're basically getting your greater than 2 bedrooms. And then they've got a even better breakdown of the rental price index. So remember, I did an RPPI video. Just check that out. I did the August one. That was released now in September. It basically tells us the rental increases nationally, and then it shows you at a provincial level. So this is basically telling us that the dark green parts of Durban are getting rental increases greater than 10%, which is good for you as an owner if you've got a tenant in. And then the orange or the dark orange is the other extreme, which basically says the rental is basically flat. People are actually decreasing their rental by 10% just to keep tenants. That's what you're seeing there. Boma, La Lucia, I don't know this area. And then the property types that are available. Over there, you've got most freehold, and then you've got a substantial flats, and then 15% informal, and then about 10% of other. And then the proportion that's bonded is 20%. Paid off is 23, rented is 43, which is quite interesting. That's where you would want to be if you're buying to invest, which I think a lot of you are. And then these are just the property sizes. So if you're looking at 1 to 2 bedroom, that's about 30% of the market, and 36% of the rentals, which means that they are in high demand. Yeah. And then this is the proportion of apartments there are within that particular 1 to 2 bedroom. And then you've got the household size. What you're basically seeing there is that you've got people who live in 1 bedrooms. They like cluster homes, or they like flats, and then they like freehold, and then they like townhouses. But it is the majority, like people who live alone are the majority at Durban, and then people who live with another person or one other person, they're the second majority with about 50,000 people, and then third, fourth, fifth. But like households of 6 and more are very small, like maybe 18,000 in the country or in the city, which is quite interesting. And then they split it according to how many are owned and how many are rented. So about 35,000 rented for 6 bedroom plus is very small. Sorry, it's about 5,000, and then for single, it's about 35,000, which is quite interesting, right? Household size. And then the population group, 53% kwaZulu Natal, so KwaZulu, love it for them. And then 9.0, less than 1% is other, 18% is white, and then 21% is Indian, and then 6.6% are colored people. And here it's basically showing that Africans own quite a lot of property in Durban, which is good. And then Africans also rent quite a bit in Durban, and then that is followed by Indians, and then it's followed by whites. That's what you're basically seeing here. And then in terms of language and instruction, 50% it's English, 32% Zulu, 6% unspecified, 5.8% is Xhosa because it is a bordering town of the Eastern Cape, and then 7% is other. And then here it's basically showing you about the needs at Durban, grade 12 at least, that's 35%, and then 11% they've got higher than a grade 12. And then you've got no schooling, it's about 7.5%, and then primary 8.3, 25% by secondary, 10% unspecified abaziwa, then 2.6% other. And then household head age is basically telling you across all of the properties, the majority is about 41 to 50 years of age, combined with 51 to 60, so left bucket 40 to 60 year olds are the head of households, largely in the city. Employment status, about 40% by employed, 26% not applicable, 23% too old or too young to work, 9% unemployed, and then about 1.8 ngabantu abangasawukhangela umsebenzi, discouraged work seekers, and then nansi 68% or 60% work in an unspecified sector, and then 32% work in the formal sector, whereas 7% work in another sector. And then household income, this helps you dictate how many people are more likely to be able to rent on the higher ends if you do get a high-end apartment, relative to if you get like a low-end apartment whereby we are readily to rent. So a household income between the 9 and 19, this is per annum, that is 10%, and then on the higher end between 300,000 and 600,000 per year, you're getting about 10% of people, which is the higher end of the bracket, and the other thing is higher than 600,000, that's about 12%, and that's what we're basically seeing here across the different properties. The render specifically, I wonder what kind of render on the higher end. I wonder 2 million, but render 0.33% of them are renting, and then Amanda the bracket, some young professionals, young professionals, upper old professionals, upper young and old professionals. So barenda up, it's about 13, 20, 21, can be 35% of young professionals is rented based on salary, or the professionals young and virtual professionals as 35% of them at Durban, and then out of the properties. And then that's it. That is it, Durban. Like I said, I'm very interested in the consulting route, but for me it's more like lost, because when I ask about Mantini and Zawloka, but you're not going to get anything out of the session if it's not set up at the start, this is what you want to discuss, etc, etc. So ideally to reach out, this is what I want to discuss, then the bank details, afake imali, set up ixesha, sidibane, sithethe, phele into bethetha. But yeah, thanks for watching. Cut the video here. Happy Property Friday.